My entire life, I've been in a rush. I don't know exactly where I'm rushing to or why I rush, but I know that it takes away something important, something substantial from the pursuit of my goals. The Grateful Podcast with Jack Wagoner presents. Subscribe. When I look back on my life, would I rather see a series of many rushed successes or a few heartfelt, meaningful ones that I was really able to derive joy from? Well, I would choose the latter. I believe that my success means nothing if it brings me no joy. And yet, rushing is the default for so many of us. From the moment we wake up, we're bombarded with so many tasks. We check our messages and our email. We set a to-do list to get as much done one day as we can. We see how much we can possibly accomplish in a short period of time. But this feels like it's just a perpetual state of almost there. There's always one more task. There's always one more benchmark or one more mountain to climb. Here's the paradox. The faster we run, the less we savor the journey. When we savor the journey less, the destination that we're aiming for becomes less fulfilling. Everything we've been working towards gets almost nullified because we're rushing the process of it. And additionally, the cost of rushing isn't just stress or burnout, which are not fun in themselves, but we lose opportunities on the way to our goals. When you slow down and are really thoughtful and present with the actions that you're taking, there are many doors that might open along the way. There are many opportunities that you might be able to take advantage of on the way to your goals. But when you're rushing through with your head down, you lose sight of those. And you can look over very meaningful opportunities. Now, the first time that I slowed down, it wasn't because I wanted to. I was forced to. And I think that's how it goes for many people that are always in a rush to get somewhere. Life finds a way of forcing them to take a moment to slow down and stop. And so I was in France. I was working really hard on my business, really hard in school, studying for this massive test that would give me a fluency certification in the French language. And after that test, I felt super sick. I became sicker than I've ever been in my entire life. And I still had so much I wanted to do. And I was going through things so fast. But I just fell sick. And it was 2 weeks of forced sleep and rest and slowing down. This forced slowdown led me to really reflect on why I moved so fast in the first place. I realized that moving at this breakneck speed is really inefficient in the long term. Yes, I'm getting as much done right now as possible, but in the long term, I end up losing consistency, and I get further away from my goals because life is going to force me to stop more often. And so if I think about the tortoise and the hare, the simplest example, if the tortoise is going very slowly but is very methodical and is always moving forward, but the hare goes so fast but stops because he gets tired. And that's what life does to people. You think about consistency is just keep on going. You don't have to be going super fast, but in the long term, you're going to succeed. At first, when I slowed down, I felt a little bit guilty. I think that society pushes us to think that productivity is always going and is being on at every single moment, but I wasn't doing that. So I did feel a little bit guilty, but I realized throughout that time period, those 2 weeks where I was forced to really slow down, how transformative it was for me. I was able to come back to presence, reading a book, or just in a moment of doing nothing. I could be present with my own mind. I think in the rush, we often lose our own thoughts because we're so consumed by our projects and our tasks that we lose sight of what we're actually saying to ourselves and of our perspective on life. So regaining that was huge for me. And I realized that slowing down does not mean stopping. It does not mean uh, stopping progress towards your goals. That's not at all what it is. And I think there's a great misconception out there that the people that achieve their goals are the ones that move the fastest and work the absolute hardest. Maybe hard work, yes, but not the fastest. I think that fast incentivizes us to do as much as we can and rush through things, and that honestly lowers the quality of your work as well. So I realized that slowing down didn't mean giving up on my ambitions, but it just meant redefining how I pursued them. So as I said earlier, I started to reflect on why we rush. And as I reflected, I realized that it stemmed from a deeper place. A lot of it was cultural, as I mentioned beforehand, about the always going, but there was also a personal part of it. I had started to tie my self-worth to my accomplishments as a very young person with many ambitions. I've always made it my goal to accomplish greater things than anyone else at a younger age than anyone else. And you can see how that right there would set me up to try to rush things and to try to really get things done as soon as possible. But it didn't always equate with joy or real meaningful accomplishment, because I would just always try to find the next thing. I would always be trying to go one step higher and so fast, where I really would just lose sight of why I was doing what I was doing. And so the faster I achieved, the more I believed I was proving my value. It really wasn't like that. This mindset was flawed. Accomplishments are fleeting, and what truly matters is the impact that we have, the relationships we build, and the way we feel about ourselves when we're just alone with our thoughts, as I mentioned beforehand. That's your real outlook on the world. And so if you can feel good about yourself when you have nothing around you, when it's just you and your brain, that's how you know you're doing well. If you're proud of yourself in that moment, that's how you know you're doing well. So the next thing I want to talk about is the power of being present. When I think about the moments that have brought me the greatest joy, none of them happened in a rush. They happened in stillness, in presence, the kind of flow that you can only access when you're 100% there with what you're doing. It means bringing your full self to whatever task you're doing. And it doesn't mean stopping, being present and slowing down, as I said before, and I'm going to constantly reiterate this concept that slowing down does not mean stopping. You know that I'm all about chasing your dreams, getting closer to your goals, so I'm not encouraging you to stop in any shape or form. I'm encouraging you to focus your energy on being there and enjoying what you're doing, so that what you're doing can become more sustainable. What you're doing can become more meaningful to you. Your quality of work will improve. And when you bring presence to your work, it is inevitable that the quality will improve, that you'll have more fun doing what you're doing, and that your work will become more sustainable. Your presence just makes the experience of working on something richer. Whether you're working on a big project or spending time with your loved ones or pursuing your passion, presence is always a key to success. So, like we were talking about before, you don't have to fall behind when you're slowing down. But here's how you can ensure that you still are working towards your goals and success while also slowing down, so you can enjoy the process and also get closer to your goals. Because I know what you're thinking. Slowing down sounds great in theory, but if I have these huge ambitions, how practical is it really? How do you slow down when life feels like a never-ending race? Well, here's what I've learned. So, number one, I want you to prioritize what matters most. Now, I wrote a newsletter on this. It's free. If you want to check out the link, I'll put it right here or in the description. It would mean the world to me if you went and checked that out. I think I did a really good job of explaining it, and I went way more in depth than I will right here. But to put it simply, you have one task that, if you put your effort there, is going to reward you with 80% of the outcome. Where right now, you might be putting the same amount of effort in, but you're putting it into the wrong things that really will move the needle 5% or 10%. But if you put in that one thing that'll move it 80%, you're going to see progress so much faster. You won't have to rush around trying all the little things because you'll put that same energy into one big thing. And so a lot of people work so hard. They work so hard. They're constantly punching and throwing punches, trying to get further, trying to work harder. Think about a UFC fight. If you throw punches and you hit someone in the knee, you're probably not going to knock them out. But if you land that same force right on the chin, there you go. You win, right? And so that's how it works on the chasing your dream side or the business side of things. You need to aim your hard work at the thing that's really going to move the needle. For me, in this business, it's podcasting, because podcasting gets me 20 pieces of content per episode with short form, medium form, and the long form. And so if I focus on podcasting, I'll be able to move the needle so much further than if I'm focusing on my little reels I make on Instagram or little tweets and whatever. That's the same amount of work, just it's not going to make the same impact. What's the one thing you can do that would make the biggest impact? Think about that. And that will stop you from putting that same effort into so many different places where you feel spread out and spread thin. All right, so number 2, I want you to build buffer time into your day. One of the biggest reasons we rush is because we overschedule. So by adding buffer time between your tasks, you'll give yourself room to breathe and transition. I really learned this while I was in France, because they had put such an emphasis on their 2-hour breaks in between their school days. But it allowed them to be so much more productive in general. And so I know so many times we think, oh, we should just keep going, like a break's not going to do us any good. That little mind reset is huge for yourself, to just stop going with futility. Because if we're constantly going, if our brain's constantly on and we're not giving it time to reset, we're not bringing our best self into our work. And when we don't bring our best self into our work, we feel like we have to overcompensate with extra work, and that leads us to rush. That leads us to spread ourselves thin and not enjoy the process, because we feel like we have to get so much done right now to compensate for the fact that we're tired and our brain's not working right. If you literally just take a 10-minute pause, reset, figure out what your brain's feeling, you're going to be able to bring your full self, your best self into that scenario and become present in that work, so that you don't feel like you have to rush and try to make up for that, for the quality. All right, so number 3, I want you to practice mindfulness. Now, mindfulness isn't just about meditating, though that does help, but it's about grounding yourself in the present moment. And instead of worrying about what's next, I want you to worry about or focus on the right now. Because what's next won't matter as much if you put all of your effort into right now. So a lot of people that rush seem to be focusing on everything, right? They're thinking, how can what I'm doing right now emphasize success in the future? How can my success in the future relate to this right now? So much is going on in their brains. But what I've learned is nothing really matters as much or everything in the future becomes easier if you give it everything you have right now. If you're fully present in the task that you're focusing on right now, stuff's going to fall into place in the future. Again, this is just reiterating the point that when you focus on quality right now, it's an investment to your future, so that you don't have to work as hard, so that you don't have to compensate with a bunch of futile tasks that are really not making that much of a difference, but you feel like you have to because what you did yesterday wasn't good enough. If you make what you're doing right now good enough, if you make what you're doing right now your best work, the highest quality, you don't have to try to make up for it in quantity and rush. right? Take your time with what you're doing because it will be better and you're going to grow faster. You have to slow down to speed up. All right. So, number 4, this is a big one. It's celebrate your small wins. So, I know a lot of us do not do that. I really struggle with doing this as well. I don't want to celebrate my small wins. I want to get a big win. But when you stop celebrating your small wins, you're disincentivizing winning small. Your brain needs hits of dopamine to keep going. And when you celebrate a small win, your brain's rewarded with that little dopamine and says, "Oh man, I did this right. We should get another one," right? And so don't wait for your big milestones to celebrate. Acknowledge and appreciate the small victories along the way. They add up to something meaningful. There's no such thing as one big success. You always have small steps on the way there. And I think a really good way of defining big success is by breaking it down to each individual small step that got you there, because in reality, that's what all big success is. It's just a series of small steps and small successes that got you to the point. So you have to appreciate each small success because it's getting you to your bigger goal. 5th, I want you to redefine success. I want you to ask yourself, what does success truly mean to me? If it's just about achieving more, you're always going to be in a rush. But if it's about fulfillment, joy, and impact, you'll find that slowing down can actually make you more successful. All right, so that's all for the 5 tips of how to slow down without falling behind. Next thing I want to talk about is just the beauty of an unrushed life. Imagine a life where you wake up excited, not anxious, where you end your day feeling content, not depleted, where your accomplishments feel meaningful, not just another box checked off of another never-ending list. This is the beauty of an unrushed life. It's not about doing less, it's about living more. When you slow down, you create space for clarity, creativity, and connection. You become more intentional about how you spend your time, and as a result, you live a life that feels authentically yours. Here's the ironic truth. Slowing down does not mean falling behind. In fact, it helps you move forward faster. It does. When you're not rushing, you make better decisions. You work smarter, not harder. You have the energy to sustain your efforts over a long period of time. Slowing down is an investment in yourself, your dreams, and your relationships. It's a way to ensure that when you look back at your life, you'll feel proud not just of what you accomplished, but of how you lived. You'll feel joyful having lived those experiences. It's worth it. So, finally, if you've been rushing through your life, then this video is an invitation for you to pause and for you to slow down. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, where am I rushing to and why am I doing it? What would happen if I slowed down and lived more intentionally? Put more effort into the present moment and to the one big thing that's going to move the needle instead of spreading myself thin and working so hard but futilely. Slowing down isn't easy. It takes courage to step off the treadmill and trust that you don't need to run yourself ragged to be worthy or successful, but I promise you, it's worth it. As we move into a new week and almost a new year, let's commit to living more intentionally. Let's embrace the beauty of slowing down, savoring the moment, and living a life that feels rich in meaning and joy. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. It means the world to me. I really hope that it can make an impact in your life, and I hope that you go after your dreams. If you're interested in hearing more like this, please subscribe down below. It would mean the world to me. And subscribe to my newsletter. And if you want a one-on-one talk like this, if you think that would be helpful for you, you can schedule a 15-minute call in the description and we can talk. All right. Thanks for watching.